everybody, this is Jill Ciminillo with Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk. And in case you didn't notice, Tim is still not here. At least he shouldn't be here. As we established in the last show, if he comments, I'm fining him $100 per comment. So he's on vacation. He should still be on vacation through the end of this evening. So Tim, by the way, lurk. If you're watching, do not comment. You're already up to $1,500 in your work vacation fines. You should not be working. But instead, what I am is I'm joined by Mercedes and Andy Lillenthal, and I actually pointed in the right direction tonight because I'm starting to get used to this square box. And we've got some really cool stuff to talk about tonight. But the first thing I want to do is I'm gonna hand it over to you because I want you to introduce yourselves. I want you to tell us who you are and where we can find you, actually. Like, how can we follow you?
Yeah, so I'm Andy Lillenthal. This is Mercedes Lillenthal. You can find us at crankshaftculture.com. We're on Instagram at crankshaftculture, on Twitter at crankshaftcult, Instagram and Facebook also Crankshaft Culture. So anything Crankshaft Culture related is us.
And what about yourself?
Oh, and I'm Andy. What am I? Andy _ Lillenthal on Instagram, I think. I don't even remember what that is. What are we? I don't even know. So it's either Andy _ or Andy . I don't even remember.
We're kind of all over the place. And we're both in the automotive industry. So I don't know, Andy, if you wanted to talk about a quick bit about.
Oh, yeah. So basically, I work for Warren Industries full time. That's we make winches and hubs and bumpers and that kind of stuff. And then also a freelance writer.
And I'm Mercedes Lillenthal, so I'm a full-time freelance automotive journalist and also do PR and marketing efforts for different automotive-minded clients. People can find me at Mercedes Lillenthal pretty much anywhere. If you Google my name, you'll pop up a lot of different contributor pages. I write for a variety of automotive-minded outlets, so anything from the New York Times to Tread Magazine to Forbes to you name it. So we live, eat, breathe wheels, and we've always done so. And we're excited about the upcoming opportunity.
That's awesome. All right. So thank you for introducing. And so I'm going to correct myself. I said Lillenthal. It's Lillenthal.
That's correct. Yep.
Lillenthal.
Okay.
We've heard a lot worse. Trust me.
Well, with a name like Ciminillo, believe me, I have also heard a lot worse. I'm like, okay, either I'm a fairy princess, a foodborne illness, or a bug repellent. And I'm like, can we go with the fairy princess? I like Cinderella way better than salmonella or citronella. So yeah.
Yeah, usually people are like, and then that's like,
that's okay. Asking for help.
Unless you're European, people are like, oh, Lillenthal. It rolls right off the tongue. So I don't know. But
yeah, I also get Ciminillo, Ciminillo. So very variations. But all right. So thank you. And let's dive right in. So we want to talk a little bit about the Alcan 500, and you guys are going to be competing in it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what the Alcan 500 is? Because we've talked a little bit about the Rebel Rally on here, which Mercedes, I believe you've competed in before, yes. And I'm going to be competing in. So we have a little bit of a vague idea of what rallies and things like that are, but what is the Alcan? And it's 5,000. I think I said 500. So 5,000. Let's talk about what that is.
Yes. Yeah. So the Alcan 5000 rally is a rally that started way back in the early 1980s by the gentleman of the name of Jerry Hines. So it's a long endurance rally. It's typically 10 days. It's over 5,000 miles. So hence why the 5,000 rally part comes into play. But it's held like the Olympics, where it's every other year. So you're winter, and then in 2 years you're summer, then 2 years in winter. So Andy and I competed as a team. Yes, husband and wife. We did compete as a team.
And
we're still married.
Yeah, we're still married.
Kill each other. You're both still here.
Exactly. So we talked to Tim Esterdahl from Pickup Truck and SUV Talk to you guys and covered that extensively as far as video series with us building up our right-hand drive Mitsubishi Pajero diesel for it. Well, this year is the summer iteration. And so once again, Andy and I are going to partner up together. This year, we are doing an Outback Wilderness, and we're partnering with Subaru of America for it.
Very cool. Let's see. I'm gonna share my screen here really quick. We'll add this to the stream. So we've reviewed the Subaru Outback Wilderness. I think I was in Hollyoaks, driving this vehicle when it first came out, and that was kind of cool. It's a really neat vehicle. And how did you come to select the Outback Wilderness, or did it select you?
Good question.
Well, so when we were on the Alcan 5000 in the summer, in the winter, in our very slow old JDM Mitsubishi diesel, we did kind of have a realization that really the best vehicle to do these Alcan rallies in is something with some power, something with some space, something that's comfortable, and something with some ground clearance
and speed.
And that is the power aspect, yes. And so the Pajero had pretty much all those things except for the speed aspect of it. And when we were talking about doing the 2022 version, we thought, hey, really, some sort of crossover is really kind of the best thing to do. And so we reached out to Subaru of America and said, hey, these are our plans, and was wondering if you guys would be interested. And sure enough, they were. I mean, this thing's got 9.5 inches of ground clearance, which is fantastic.
And we've got a pretty long standing relationship with Subaru of America. Not only have we reviewed some of their previous vehicles, we've also been hosted by them for a few different Oregon Trail Rally circuits when they come through town here and rally in Oregon and in Washington. So we've had a chance to be behind the scenes when Travis Pastrana, David Higgins, Bucky Lasik, all those guys, like the top Subaru Motorsports people and Vermont racing people, are just driving their hearts out and kicking butt doing rallies. So it's been a great evolution with us as far as Subaru as a brand, and for us to be now part of Team Subaru to do this is really a fantastic experience. We're looking forward to it.
Very cool. Yeah, no, I've had this both as a week-long test as well as when I did the quick off-road thing. And the thing that struck me about the Outback Wilderness is just the comfort. Like, the seats are comfortable, the ride is comfortable. It just feels good. So I mean, I can imagine when you're 5,000 miles, like, you want something that is not going to be tough on the butt.
Right. And especially when you think about it, 5,000 miles. Think of it this way, 5,000 miles over 10 days, and you've got time, speed, distance, mini rallies within that every single day, if not twice a day. And about 30% of that is what they said was going to be about gravel and dirt and potholes and stuff like that. If you think about it, 5,000 miles, that's like 1,500 to 2,000 miles of dirt and gravel and washboards and all that type of stuff. So this car will be put to the test, the ultimate test. And I mean, as far as Subaru and rallies, I mean, they go hand in hand. So no brainer.
Yeah, they really do. So because I'm big, I'm familiar with how Rebel works, and like, is this similar with like their endurance, like enduro challenges, or is it like all like off? Like, do you plot navigation, like, or do you just have a course and you go, or how does that work?
So it is different than Rebel Rally. There's no plotting coordinates, that kind of thing. You're given a road book that covers it's a spiral bound book that's thick with directions for every day of the rally, and again 5,000 miles of driving. And so it will say you oftentimes will start the morning with a time, speed, distance rally. And for people who aren't familiar with that, time, speed, distance rally is going to be rally on public roads. It's all within the speed limit, and it's following direction and being accurate in terms of time and staying on route. So you'll get an example like turn left on Main Street at 5 miles. And so you come to Main Street, you look at your odometer, it says 5 miles, you take a right. It'll say change average speed to or cast 30 miles an hour. And so you try to keep that average speed at 30. It's always going to be under the speed limit because this is on a road rally. It's all legal on the road.
And so as he's going to be the driver, I'm the navigator. So we have tulip notes and we have a lot of route directions with this book. So I basically get to tell him where to go. And then he listens.
She tells me where to go all the time. So,
but do you always listen? That's going to be the question.
Oh, always.
Wait, what helps for us, because we're going to run the seat of pants class, or SOP. Seat of pants class basically means you just use what you have for an odometer. You don't have any fancy rally equipment, rally computers. That's like unlimited or expert classes, things like that. We are running seat of pants, so I do my best to keep him on track, on course, and he repeats back the instructions to me. So I might say 0.24, miles, turn left onto, or soft left onto Smith Highway or whatever it may be. And then he'll repeat back. And then that way I can understand that he said the right thing, and then it just keeps us talking to each other, and it just works out for us.
Yeah. It's great because she gets to tell me what to do all the time. So
And he actually listens. He actually
sometimes,
listens.
but we do jokingly say, like, she's going to give me the wrong direction and I'm going to take a wrong turn. Like, it's going to happen.
Right.
We always try to do a little pinky swear before a rally that, hey, let's cut each other some slack. Let's not get angry. Compromise. Don't hit any animals.
Yeah.
Keep the shiny side up. Yeah, that kind of stuff. But, with all the, all joking aside, it really is like, okay, it is going to get stressful. It is going to get, there are going to be missed turns and wrong speeds and all that stuff. It is going to happen. So let's just cut each other some slack. After all, we're doing this because it's supposed to be fun.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you guys have a safe word? So my partner for Rebel and I, we've started talking about our safe word if we get annoyed with each other, like when we know we need to take a time out. So do you guys have a safe word?
I have one.
Yeah, it's bubbles. She always, I don't know where this came from, but years and years and years ago, she's like, I think we were overseas for something. And she's like, if we ever get into trouble, we should have like a safe word, like bubbles. I'm like, okay, bubbles. Okay. Don't know where that came from, but it's kind of a hard one to just slip into conversation. So, but anyway, but yeah.
It's a word that makes me laugh. It's like bubbles. It's
bubbles.
like,
Yeah. By the way, I don't think we've ever actually had to use the bubbles word.
No.
So
I've heard that it can be pretty intense. I know I've heard of helmet throwing and people leaving other people, like for Rebel Rally, for instance, and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I mean, for us, tensions do run high, like Andy had mentioned. You're locked in a steel box essentially for 10 days with your significant other or with a friend or whatnot, and you have to be able to talk through stressful situations, but then to have fun too. I mean, this is a rally. We're not creating, Man on the Moon, version 2 or what, a bad example, but it's fun, it's challenging, is to get the vehicle there. And for us as journalists, it's going to be writing, talking, reviewing the vehicle, figuring it all out and finding out what we love about it and some things that we might not like about it.
Getting the story behind it. I mean,
right.
the thing that I don't think a lot of people understand is the massive scale of these Alcan 5000 rallies. I mean, it's the same equivalent as if you drove to like Peru. I mean, it's incredibly long, and you get to see some amazing things along the way. The camaraderie is second to none. I mean, really, when we did the Alcan 5000 winter rally in 2020, I mean, they talk about life-changing events. It really was. I mean, it was unbelievable. We saw things that will, unless we do the Alcan again in 2024, which we probably will, you can't drive on ice roads anywhere else around here easily. There are things you just can't.
Legitimate ice roads.
Yeah, there are things that you just can't do unless you do these rallies. I mean, yeah, you could drive up there by yourself, which some people do.
Well, and some of we knew we had some bucket lists items, right? So I know that one went a little bit further north, went all the way up to Tuktoyaktuk and beyond, and up to the Arctic Ocean, back down from Seattle, into Whitehorse, then over to Fairbanks, then back up because we did the extreme optional challenges up to Coldfoot to, get fuel. Thankfully, one pump actually worked for diesel. Came back down and ended in Anchorage during 10 days, but we crossed off bucket list items we didn't even know we had. For instance, 4 Arctic circles. So we passed through 4 Arctic Circle opportunities,
crossings.
Two countries within 3.5 days. So 4 times 2 countries in 3.5 days. If you let that sink in, that's nuts. Yeah. It's so cool.
There's been a number of times where we've just been like, do you remember that? Like, can you believe we did that? Like, that's crazy. And I mean, the one nice thing about the summer one, granted, this is our first summer one, is we don't have to worry about survival as much. So
mosquitoes can be kind of bad.
Yeah, though. Mosquitoes for sure. But, you don't have to worry about 40 below zero and whether or not you're going to get stuck somewhere. But luckily, the Alcan 5000 has a sweeps team. So you don't ever get behind the sweeps vehicles. And, if you do have mechanical problems, they're going to stop and help you out.
Well, in addition to the Outback Wilderness already having, different suspension than the regular Outback, having added ground clearance, great power, good fuel economy, those types of things, we are going to outfit it and customize it slightly to make it more capable in the fact of vehicle recovery and having auxiliary lights and things like that. So for instance, we're going to do Light Force LED auxiliary lights up front, and those are going to be situated in a Rally Innovations light bar. We're also going to be doing Max Trax recovery boards on the basket. So in case, God forbid, if somebody slides off the road and in a ditch or us, we'll go ahead and do that as well. Yep, those are the photos. And then also, we have, since Andy works for Warn, we're going to have a variety of Warn recovery gear, and then Factor 55 hitch link that's going to be mounted in the rear too. And that we can put a D-shackle or a bow shackle behind, and that will be able to pull us out, or we could use that as a safe recovery point to pull somebody else out too.
Yeah, and I'm not expecting to have to go into the ditch here, but
right.
You do want to be prepared for that kind of stuff.
Right.
When we did the winter rally, we did end up in the ditch one time, almost ended up in it a few times.
We kissed it another time.
We did use the Warn winch on the vehicle, and I know other people use a variety of other recovery gear, the Fact 55 kinetic ropes to pull people out of ditches and stuff.
And another thing that's important, in addition to the exterior upgrades or equipment like the recovery boards and things like that, is Scosche. We're going to be using a variety of different Scosche mounts that'll go on the windscreen or on the dash. And those will hold emergency communications and also team buddy radios. So we'll have two different rugged radios, one for the emergency frequency, then another one's going to be for our buddy cars. So what the rally does is they make sure that you have a couple of different teams together at all times. Yep, and that's a power bank too that I just actually used in the classic car rally called the Great Race. Worked great to keep us topped off, especially with a vintage car. But then we'll also have a rally app on a smartphone called the Richta Rally app. So we'll have lots of different things, and Scosche will have, they sent us a big box of stuff, so we'll be able to mount those and have those. We'll have internal safety measures in addition to the recovery safety measures. Right.
No, I mean, going through some of this, trying to outfit our little Santa Cruz, I'm very interested in your mount, the mount that you have for like the phone mount or whatever. We'll talk offline, but I was like looking at some of your gear and I was like, oh, that looks really cool. So the one question I have for you is where you're putting the winch. Like, are you going to put it on the front bumper, or how are you doing the winch?
So we're actually going to pass on a winch this time.
Oh, okay.
We're probably not going to.
I think you guys are freezing up a little bit.
It does make winch mount, but we're not. It does.
I think we're back. Are we back?
Are you there? Okay. Yes.
Okay. But so yeah, we're going to forego the winch mount, but we will have legitimate recovery options. We just won't be able to self-recover on this one, but we will have a kinetic energy rope if we did need to. If we came across somebody in the ditch, we'd be able to pull them out. But it's going to be a kinetic recovery versus a winch recovery.
Yeah, no, and thinking about all of this stuff, like we don't have tow hooks on our Santa Cruz, and so it's just like, thinking about all the things you can add to not only get yourself out of a problem, but to help somebody else, in a situation. So looking at the Outback Wilderness, I'm going to ask you both this question. You can give your own separate answers. What is your favorite thing about it? What do you think is going to be, okay, let me phrase this better. What do you think your favorite thing is going to be about it while you're going through the rally? And what do you think you're a little bit worried about?
My favorite thing is going to be 260 horsepower.
I was going to say that.
Well, maybe that's going to be your favorite thing too. The things I'm worried about. I think the only thing that I'm worried about is this isn't my personal car. So it'll be just getting to learn it the first couple of days. I'm sure it's a new car, all that. So I'm not too worried about mechanical. It's not a 31-year-old Japanese domestic market diesel that I'm bringing in the middle of nowhere.
Right. We don't have to bring a whole entire huge box like we did with our Rome Adventure box. Full of parts.
I'll still bring tools and stuff just because it's just a tool roll.
Right.
But yeah, there'll be a little bit of a learning curve.
Yeah, and he stole my answer already about the horsepower, but I think for us, it's got a nice capacity tank to it. Although the I think highway's 26 and combined is about 24 or so. We'll be running mostly highway, but of course, if you're in gravel and dirt, that would probably go a little bit or be a little bit less. But it's got an 18 and a half gallon tank. So we're still slated to be, I think, 350, 400 miles easy on a
400
tank.
miles should be easy. Todd's asking if we get to bring extra tires and fuel cans. Yes. In fact, we're required, I believe, to bring one full size spare, which the Wilderness has. Yep. And then it's recommended to bring 5 gallons or extra fuel. It's not required. In the winter one, they require you to bring extra fuel. And they also require you to have 3-peak rated or snow tires. But this one, at least one full-size spare and fuel is recommended, but not required.
And what's cool is we learned that the Subaru Outback Wilderness does have, like Andy mentioned, the full-size spare. Mm-hmm. And it also comes with Yokohama Geolandar tires, all-terrain tires. Those tires we've run personally on some of our rigs before, and they're great, solid tires. And that's actually what I ran in the Rebelle Rally doing the ID4 all-electric car last year. And I mean, they were great. The sidewalls are great. I mean, they're nice and beefy. They're quiet.
It's just happened to be that way. They're like, oh, the Geolandar G015s, like we had those on our 4-wheel drive, and then she had them on the VW ID4. And so we are familiar with that for sure. It's a proven platform already, so it's not something that I'm like too worried about. I would also like to add a second place is going to just be comfortable seats. We found out that it was absolutely paramount to have good seats. When we did the Alcan 5000 Winter Rally, we had Shieldman heated Vario F heated seats, and like we would get out after 9 hours, 10 hours of driving and like not a sore bone in the body.
9 or 10 hours of driving. Who are you driving?
Those were on the short days. So.
They talk about more like 14 to 16 hours. Yeah. But I mean, Shieldman's a German-made company, but they're orthopedic seats. And so they've got, not only do you have the heat, we have the heat set up, but, you can dial in your lumbar, you can dial in the pitch of the height of the seat or the base and things like that. So Subaru, I know, has got a bunch of adjustments too. So we're excited to see how they fare. Yeah.
Comfortable and powerful with plenty of ground clearance. And that's really what you want on an Alcan vehicle, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Control.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny. When I first drove the Subaru Outback, maybe I guess it was the beginning of the 2 generations ago. So not this one, but the last one. And when I sat in the seat, I was like, oh, this is like slipping on your favorite pair of comfy jeans, because it's just like you got in behind the driver's, wheel, and it just felt like everything was familiar. It felt good. The seats were comfortable. It just, I could see the draw of the Outback. I think that would definitely be beneficial. And it looks like we have another question from Todd here, Temsky. Do they also come with internal suspension on the seats?
I'm not sure about the Outback, but I believe the Shieldmans are a suspension seat, if I remember correctly. So.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if he was referring to the Outback or the other seats you were talking about. So, okay.
I know the Pajero had a coil in the driver's seat. It was literally like a trucker seat. So when you go over big bumps, Andy's seat goes up and down, and I was still static.
That's like truly a bouncy seat.
Literally a bouncy seat, yeah.
That's on the factory seats on our old
ones.
Pajero. So, but yeah, we found out too, like, when we did the winter one, that cars like the turbo Subarus, even the non-turbo Subarus, the Porsche Macan, or even some, like a Raptor or something like that. Super great because it's big and comfortable and, isn't wheezy at higher speeds, freeway speeds, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of like just rallies in general, we'll go away from the Subaru Outback Wilderness, which I think we can both agree is pretty awesome. What is, like, you guys have been competing for a while. So, like, what is the one must-have, like, aftermarket accessory you feel like you have to have or you have to take with you?
Ooh.
God, it depends on the
great
rally.
Question. For a rally, oh, boy.
It depends on if it's on-road or off-road.
But, like, I guess...
off-road.
An off-road rally, good tires, period.
Yeah.
Like, that's... Number one thing has got to be good tires.
Good recovery gear.
Yeah, but
But the
I really
tires,
think
yeah,
like if there's
You're
one
like, and good
thing,
recovery gear. Get me out of the
yeah,
hole.
I mean,
Be prepared. No pun intended.
right.
That's the
Go
slogan for his
prepared is
company.
Warren's tagline.
Go
But
prepared.
yeah, there's no replacement for a good set of tires. I mean, it's amazing how far like a 2-wheel drive truck can go on a good set of tires off road. So for sure that. And I would say you have something.
Yeah, I mean, I think tires. I mean, if you, it's kind of like shoes for your feet, right? I mean, if you don't have good shoes, and if your feet are, in peril, then yeah, you're not going far. Yeah, I mean, gosh, aftermarket accessories. I mean, good lighting. You got to see where you're going, especially if it's dusty, if it's off road. I mean, silt and dust can really blind you very quickly. We learned, we've got light force on all of our vehicles, and we've had them on previous vehicles too. And if you can't see, you're SOL. So being able to cut through that is pretty important.
I do understand that just the time of year and the latitude that we'll be at, it doesn't get dark, till pretty late. But from previous rally experience, stuff can go wrong. You can show up late in some of these roads. You're miles and miles from anything. So having good auxiliary lighting is really important. It was extremely important on the winter version that would get dark at 4:00, 4:30, and having big, powerful lights up front was the difference between seeing that moose that is in the middle of the road and maybe not.
And I mean, that's all in all seriousness. They just pre-ran it. What was it, a week ago now? I think they came back. They pre-ran the whole rally to make sure, because BC has gotten a ton of flooding and a lot of roads were washed out, and they saw tons and tons of bear. They took like daily videos of bear. Like, there's another one.
I know. I thought the most important thing would be to finish, and I think the most important thing is not getting eaten by a bear. So.
Right.
But then also moose and caribou and a wolf. We almost hit a wolf in 2020. That's true story. But yeah, I think whether it's nighttime or daytime. I mean, if you're following a rally car, we don't know how wet those surfaces are going to be and how dusty things will be. And I mean, for us, that's really important. And to make sure you always have enough wiper washer fluid, because if you're out of that too, you're really up a creek.
Yeah. No, that is all a good point. Well, it's funny because you talk about like almost hitting things. I was driving the Bronco Everglades last week up in the UP, and we went out in like 3 little cars, like per group. Mm-hmm. And our lead car, when we were on the road heading to our off-road site, hit a deer. Like at 55 miles an hour, hit the deer. It hit the Warn winch on the front, and it like did a little bounce on the side and then flew across the road. And what I want to say is Warn winch and Bronco Everglades won. Dead deer on the side of the road, like 0.
Sorry, Bambi.
I know.
Yeah, it's a very, very sad for Bambi. But when we got out and we looked at the vehicle, because it hit on the front of the winch, and then just kind of bumped around to the side, there was just like a little bit of the side that was like just had a little dent, and otherwise the vehicle was able to carry on the rest of the day after hitting a deer at 55 miles an hour. Today and do all the off-road things. Not hitting something would be totally a good idea.
Yeah, it's when we did 2020, it was incredible the amount of animals we saw. Like she said, deer, moose, caribou, buffalo. I mean, they're just like unbelievable amounts of things, and this year it sounds like we'll have to watch for Yogi Bear too.
Well, Andy brings up another good point, and so do you, Jill, is safety is first. Mm-hmm. Safety is absolutely first, no matter if it's inside the vehicle, outside, and having a really proper medical kit is important. And one of our sponsors in 2020 was Chiron Remote, and Nick set us up with a cold weather severe duty medical kit of all sorts of different things. And we need to revisit that, see what we have, and bring something, because that is so important. If it's not for you, it could be for somebody else.
Yeah, 100%. I keep saying 100% a really lot, but I totally agree with you, which is why I keep saying that. I just want to give a shout out to Alvin Brack, who just joined. He's a new member for the channel. And we have a lot of people who are here: Marky Mark, Richard Strelo, Todd Dembski. And so thanks, guys.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Sorry, it was totally me. I don't know what I hit there. Oh, and we've got some spam going on too. So let me get rid of some of that. But yeah, technical difficulties. Okay, so but no, okay, I hit a button. I don't know what I hit, and then the spam came in and bad things.
Good.
That's all right.
But we're back on. We're on live. So welcome to everybody who is on today. And I did want to get to this question because I don't think I asked or we answered this. Todd wanted to know where the Alcan 5000 is.
Yeah, absolutely. So it starts in Kirkland, Washington on August 26th, I believe it is, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Or the 23rd or something.
Something like that.
Alcan, so Alcan 5000.com is the website.
It's an HTML 1.0 site, but it's super easy to use. So
sorry, Jerry.
But it starts in Kirkland, Washington, and then goes right up into Canada. So like our first night will be in Quesnel, British Columbia. We'll dip into portions of Alaska. We'll go to Skagway, for example. We go as far north as Dawson City.
Yeah.
And previous years, they've gone all the way up to the Arctic Ocean in the winter. But this year, we're actually going to then cut to the east. We'll go through places like Yellowknife, Telegraph Creek, and then you'll end up finishing in Jasper, Alberta this year.
I think Jasper is September 1st.
September 1st is the last day. So lots of British Columbia, a little bit of Yukon, some of the Northwest Territories, and Alberta. So one state and 4 Canadian provinces / territories.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Okay, so here's a random question then. Since you started in the United States and you end up in Canada, do you have to, how do you do the passport or border crossing?
Yeah, so now I just came back from Canada on Monday. And so
for an overland rally.
For an overland rally, BC overland rally. And so basically, obviously you have to have a passport. And then they have an app now called Arrive Can. And Arrive Can is something you'll have to download. You have to upload your documents to Arrive Can before you get to the border. So that will include picture your passport as well as your COVID status, when you're entering Canada and when you're leaving Canada, and basically what you're doing up there, if I remember correctly. It's very easy to do, and they'll have all the information already at the border. And then it's your usual questions about where you're doing, where you're headed, blah, blah, blah. So,
and since we have a car that's not our own, I know Subaru Corporate is going to be giving us a Canadian registration card of some sort that we will need to send back afterwards. So they have their paperwork, and then we'll have our paperwork. And of course, we'll have our insurances. I'm sure they'll have some liability insurance paperwork too. So a little bit more that goes on with it, but we'll have everything ready and set to go beforehand.
Yeah.
No, that is cool.
I know one of the other questions we get a lot is like, are you camping along the we? How does that work? And so we're not. So
you're like, we're not.
Not this year. So the entry fee does include your hotel nights, except for the first night in Kirkland. That's on you. So it includes your hotel, and I use hotel roughly. Yeah, it's motel. I mean, we're not staying at the Ritz-Carlton.
Motel, holiday. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. You know.
You got Susie's Motel that was last renovated in 1962, you know.
Yeah, but it does depend. Some of the places are actually pretty decent. Some of them are like not super great, but it doesn't really matter. Usually you're tired and you just want to get a beer and something to eat at night, and then
I think this time will be quick enough to get there to have dinner and a beer.
Yeah, so we should. In 2020, we were one of the last teams to register, so we were car 39 of 40. So the way they stage this is car number 1 is out at 8:01, car number 2 8:02, etc. So we were out at 8:39. So we were always one of the last people to leave in a very slow turbo diesel Pajero. And so you will do your TSD in the morning, and then you'll have what they call a transit section. And the transits, if you're doing a local TSD rally with we're part of Cascade Sports Car Club, which is ironic considering we don't own a sports car, but you'll do your TSD, and there might be a transit of like 10 miles. And basically, so you finish that transit is just to get to the next stage,
challenge.
Next challenge. And on Alcan, you'll do your little TSD in the morning, and then it'll be like a 500-mile transit to the next town. And there might be a TSD in the evening. There might just be your hotel there for the evening. So when you're done with that, there's no time limit on the TSD in terms of how soon you get there, unless you have to be there in time to start the next TSD rally that evening.
Right.
So a lot of people, they just want to get there early and they just go. So when you were in an old diesel with 100 horsepower, there was no arriving early for much anything. And so many times we would arrive like 9 o'clock at the hotel because we were slow.
Well, we still had to like unload everything. Because it was negative down to negative 43 temps.
Yeah.
Fahrenheit. So we had to lug all of our gear in, and a lot of the times Andy installed an oil pan heater in addition to our Webasto engine coolant heater that we had. And a lot of times the plugs were all taken up by other ralliers, so we didn't have a chance to plug the oil pan heater in, and just ate Mountain House and was like, "Hey guys, you're already ready to go to bed." We're like, "Hey, we just got here."
We'd like walk into the restaurant. They're like, "Oh, sorry, we're closed."
We're
like,
closed.
beef jerky and granola bars for dinner again,
and maybe peanut butter because protein goes.
Right. Well, so that gets back to like earlier when we were talking about what was the one accessory that you would bring or something that you must have. Like a whole bunch of people were, you can tell it's right around dinner time for some people because they were like beef jerky, gummy bears.
Yes. I wanted to say gummy bears.
Yes.
But
road trip food is important. We kind of have our usual road trip food, but we always kind of did a little joke. We always bring sweet tarts. I don't know. It's just become this thing.
It's like
for
bubbles.
her. I don't
like
generally
bubbles, But I think we were told with the Alcan, especially in the winter, they said drink a lot of water, and they were very serious about it because they said not only is it extremely dry, it's extremely cold, and you don't realize that your body's just frigid and it's just kind of doing this thing. They said it's cold. If you drink more water than if you would be if it's 90 degrees and if you're in the Sahara Desert. And we kind of devised a way that worked beautifully. Was we have these little cooler bags that we put on our the rear part of our front seats, and we just had those cooler bags open, and we put our full Camelbacks there, and then we had the hose that was like literally right at the ready. So I went like this and I just sipped, and then that was just how we did it. And we had hands on the wheel or hands down, and I was able to see, and then Andy was just able to just go and grab. And that was one of the best things that we did, was having that at the ready. And then some of the other things, like Andy said, beef jerky and whatnot, but single sleeves of peanut butter, because it's all protein. It'll keep you lasting longer and going further. So that was also good.
Yeah, there were people that would stop for like a sit down lunch, and we're just like, nope, let's go. Like we're too slow. And so we would just bring, stuff to eat. But you devise all these little endurance rally tricks, like I'm sure you will for Rebel Rally.
And I can totally help you guys too, you and Kristen, on just what works for us and with recovery stuff. And I mean, happy to help.
So you end up like devising these little tricks and hacks that work really well, and you're like, we have to do that again next time.
Yeah. Well, we went through 4 days of training already with Rebel, and we've discovered some things. But so here's our food challenge. Cause I'm sure everybody wants to know about our food challenges. I'm gluten-free and dairy-free, and Kristen has a nut allergy. So it's like, so like I'm trying to think about what salty snacks I can eat. And I'm like, well, maybe some gluten-free pretzels. And then it's just like, can't put any nut butters for her. And we have to be careful with like the power bars that they don't have any nuts in them. So it's just like,
wow. Yeah. Let's see. My Emily Winslow, my navigator, and myself with Rebel, I bought a huge box of Cheez-Its, but I think they have gluten
and cheese.
And cheese, right? So that wouldn't work. But a huge box of Cheez-Its. And I told her, I said, don't judge me, but I bought a huge box of Cheez-Its. So they're cheddar cheese kind. She's like, oh my God. She picks out her white cheddar cheese box of Cheez-Its. And she's like, and so we had this running joke, and Cheez-It, if you're watching, we need to be sponsored by you, because it's like this whole rally thing is now I have to have Cheez-Its whenever I travel. Team Cheez-Its. We even have Cheez-It socks because we're kind of dorks like that. But it was fun. But yeah, that wouldn't work for you guys. Golly. Yep. What food could you eat?
Yeah. So we're like, we did, I have RX bars, and so like kept them separate from her stuff. And then we brought something, it's called That's It. And it's like fruit and like just pureed fruit in a bar. And that's it.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Oh, that's cool.
so we did that. But yeah, so we have one more training session. So I think while you are doing the Alcan, we are doing our final Rebel training. So
Awesome.
we will have another session to figure that out. All right, so we've talked about this for like almost 40 minutes now. Is there anything like we didn't talk about that you wanted to talk about? And we'll talk about some other things because we wanted to talk about some of our rants on vehicles. This was a specific request from Todd last week, but we need to talk about rants, things that we don't like on vehicles. So,
Sure.
But before that, anything else we didn't talk about with the Alcan?
I think for me, huge thanks to Subaru of America to entrusting us with a vehicle for 5,000 miles and a crazy endurance rally. They've always been great to us. We love driving them. We actually just picked up our 22 manual transmission Subaru Crosstrek sitting outside. Picked that up last Saturday. So we've owned a WRX, we've owned a Subaru Forester back in the day, but also our other sponsors too, and our friends and family. I think having that support is so quintessentially important, and we can't do it with everybody that we, friends, family, sponsors like Light Force, Rally Innovations, Scotia, Max Tracks, Warren Industries, Factor 55, and especially Subaru.
Yeah, what she said.
And Crankshaft Culture, us too.
Yeah. So people can follow us along on Crankshaft Culture on social, all that stuff. Usually it's amazing how I didn't expect there to be as good a Wi-Fi as there was in some of these places, but it's amazing technology.
We were able to put up some quick videos and things, and even with myself at Mercedes Lillenthal or _Lillenthal at Instagram. If you follow that and Crankshaft Culture, I'll be either starting in one and posting the other, or vice versa.
Get the full scoop.
We'll be there. We'll be all over.
You'll be everywhere. Okay. That is awesome. Well, I can't wait to follow your journey. We'll have to have you guys back on afterwards to talk about how it went. Take lots of photos because
absolutely
photographers. So
of course I'm gonna have all my camera gear.
Of course you're gonna have it all. For Rebel, you can't take your cell phone or digital like GPS things. And so I'm like, how am I gonna take photos? So I have an old Pentax K1000 that I think I'm going to break out. It's an old film manual camera. It's all manual. So I think I'm going to break that out. And I think I want to break it out for the training this time and give it a run through and see how it does with the sand.
That'd be cool. Yeah. I know that they're very strict with their cameras. Yeah. You can do a digital camera as long as it doesn't have onboard GPS. So I first in 2018, when I competed as a privateer, I used my old Canon T2i, my Rebel T2i. And then this last year in 2021 with VW, I used my 80D. And so that one, you needed to have like a separate external dongle to make a GPS. And they tested me through it and looked it all up, and they let me use that. And you can't use a lens longer than 200 millimeters because they'll say it's binoculars. So that's the other tip. Yeah. If you want to use a lens. So yeah, I mean, another thing that I did is you can go to a camera shop or borrow one, or just buy and just reconsign it back. Buy one used, and if you decide to do digital,
rent one
too. Gosh, I've done that multiple times. I've rented lenses and things. So, but I love the film idea. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's what I think I'm going to do. All right, one more thing I want to talk about before we get into the rants. I think I've mentioned this in my headline. So I want to make sure I touch on it really quick. Is the American Made Index from the cars.com, and talking about trucks and how American they are. And we touched on this a little bit last week, so I'm not going to belabor it. And we touched on this in the news recap, but I think this is surprising. With that, I don't know if you guys can see that on your end. I shared my screen, but the pickup trucks and how American they are. The first truck on this list is the Honda Ridgeline.
Wow. Is that as far as percentage of parts and pieces that are American?
It's parts and pieces and labor. And then so they look at vehicles that have final assembly in America, but then it's also where the transmission is built, where the engine is built, where So I thought that was interesting. And as Purdue points out in the comments, we didn't do all of the vehicles. We just looked at pickup trucks, but 4 of the top 6 of the entire list are Teslas. But yeah, I mean, the shocker for me on this list was where the Chevy Silverado and the Chevy Sierra felt. They were number 93 and 94 on the list. So only beat by, I think, the Hyundai Accent in terms of on all vehicle lists, because cars.com only looks at 95 vehicles or the top 95 vehicles. So they were literally the bottom of the barrel in terms of how American the vehicles were. And I don't know. I just wanted to flash this up on the screen because I thought it was crazy, because you have, Honda Ridgeline, the Toyota Tundra is number 23, and you've got Nissan Titan is 58, Nissan Frontier is 68. All of those beat the Silverado and the Sierra. So I just think that's crazy.
Is that because the Silverado's manufactured in Canada? Is it Canada?
Well, it could. It's the final assembly is in Roanoke, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't dug too much into the background behind this. But I'm sure there is like some parts assembly that happens in Canada. And I think that's probably why. You can go to the cars.com website and kind of dig into the data a little bit more. But it always throws me for a little bit of a loop. So I just wanted to, I know. So Purdue is saying that it's a Fort Wayne truck. I know that this Sierra has some final assembly in Fort Wayne as well. I've been to the plant. It's really cool. I saw they did a demonstration with a carbon fiber bed where they like literally were like banging on the bed with a baseball bat. And I was just like, yep, no dents. It was pretty cool. Okay. One more thing. We did post this website post this story on our website today. Richard Strelo says Titan is dead after 2025. That to be the consensus. Auto News had a story on their website. I think they posted it last night. And that somebody inside Nissan said that after 2024, 2025, they're just not going to do anything new with the truck, and they're just going to let it die.
Wow.
So so that was some interesting little tidbit of news. We'll be talking about that in the news recap tomorrow, which Tim will be back for, by the way. So if you guys are on here, make sure you tune into the news recap tomorrow. Tim will be back and not get fined for it or for on vacation.
We'll have to razz him a bit because he decided to take time off, and we're on him again. So we got to be on again when both of you guys are here. So
yes, we'll definitely. When you come back, we definitely need to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
But now let's get into some of our rants, because I kind of prepped you guys a little bit for it, and I call them automotive pet peeves, or things we don't like on modern vehicles. And I have this ongoing segment now in the news recap where they're calling it the Jill rant. And because I did one on like wireless Apple CarPlay and or not having wireless Apple CarPlay, but then having like a wireless charging pad drives me nuts. So it's like stupid, silly little things like that. But all of our Jill rant on Tim. No, I'm not going to. Only if he comments, then we rant. But yeah, he was saying put time for a Jill rant on Tim. No, so I have one that I'm going to be doing for tomorrow. So I won't touch on that. But my last week's rant was on safety systems that are too aggressive. So speaking of the Subaru Outback Wilderness and I was in the Subaru Forester Wilderness. Holy shnikey. You want to talk about aggressive safety systems. It's like beep, 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 beep. It's like beeping all over the place. I haven't figured out how to turn the beeps off yet. And the steer assist function, like when I was driving to Indianapolis and back, and like when the highway would curve, the vehicle was like forcibly like turn, and I'm like, no, I don't want to take that line. And I had to turn the steer assist function off. And to me, if you have a safety system that you have to turn off, that's not a good safety system. So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it works, especially with gravel roads and just, unmarked paved roads. And I mean, there's a lot of unimproved stuff up there. So again, I know a lot of it's line based, but we'll have to see.
Yeah. Eyesight. I'm sure it has eyesight and all that stuff. I know it's got the X mode for off-road stuff, but yeah, I'm sure it has all the eyesight and all those things. So
we'll let you know.
I do remember, by the way, speaking of aggressive safety stuff, I remember when the Alfa Romeo Stelvio came out, and I remember driving one of those on a press trip, and I wasn't that close to the thing, but I mean, like all of a sudden, like all the gauges were like flashing red, stop. And I look over at the PR guy and he's like, oh, it's just very Italian that way.
Talking with its hands.
Yeah. So,
Oh my gosh.
but yeah, I know there's been a couple of times where like that lane keeping or whatnot. And you're just like, no, I don't want to go there. Like, what are you doing? So, although my favorite kind of story about that kind of like didn't know it was going to happen deal was, I drove a Mercedes-Benz SL55 one time on a press trip, and it has auto-inflating bolsters. And I remember taking the corner, not knowing that, and I'm like, "Whoa, geez, what are you doing?"
And I was like, "Oh,
yeah, yikes! Buy me a drink first." So.
Yeah, I know. I feel like they call those dynamic bolsters, maybe, or something. I haven't experienced them in a while, but I feel like Corvette used to have those. And I just remember the first time, like you take a turn and it just like presses up against you. And I'm very thin, so I don't usually feel the bolsters when I'm driving, but like when you turn, like you kind of like lean into the bolster while you're turning. And I just remember it going pushing against me, and I was like, whoa, what just happened there? But yeah, it's like, I need a lobster after that. You just touched me in a not good place. What what the heck?
I think your rants are both better than mine. One of my biggest rants is piano black, the high gloss finish on center consoles, or just the center stack all the way down. Almost every car has got it. It bugs the living daylights out of me. It's just, you can't keep them clean. They scratch like crazy. They fingerprint like crazy. That's my biggest rant.
I knew that was coming, though.
That is a good rant, actually.
I'm literally, I spent nearly 20 years as a commercial interior designer and project manager. So materials was my life. So, and then I switched gears, pun intended, in 2018 to be full-time cars and words. So I think for me, just the thoughtfulness of the material, longevity, the looks, the usability of it, and just how it, and then it can blind you too. That's the other thing is if you're full sun day, and then all of a sudden it's just, you're turning a corner, you're like, I can't see, that this works. Yeah. It doesn't work very well.
And Richard Strelo says, Mercedes and Andy are a very nice couple. Thanks for being here with Jill. So
our pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. But so along those lines, speaking of materials, here, I'm gonna insert another one, Andy, and then I'm gonna say you have to give one. But here's another one for you: putting metal on a gear shift. What the hell? Like, what the hell? On a hot day, like you go to touch the gear shift and you're like, especially if it's a manual transmission and there's a metal plate on the top of that. Like you're trying to like put your fingers on the leather bit as you're shifting. And I mean, what the heck? Like, why would you put metal on a gear shift?
Because it looks awesome.
Yeah, it looks really pretty, but ow!
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. I have one vehicle that has a weighted shift knob on it, and it's metal, and that sucker turns into just like a giant branding ball at
a circular branding ball
at high temperatures. So
you're gonna have the reverse shift pattern.
Yeah, literally. It's like, I've got a nice, perfect like burn mark here that's in the shape of a circle. But I mean, all we drive are stick shifts. All we own have been stick shifts for ever and ever and ever and ever. So yeah, I mean, we have to touch that, and so we're fussy. Well, I'm fussy with my stick shifts.
I knew I liked you guys for some reason. You guys only own manual transmissions. My husband and I have the same deal. So, we have conversations on this channel all the time about like buying me a truck for the channel. I'm like, no, we can't, because like there's only, I think Tacoma maybe is one of the only. Is there still?
Yeah, I thought they got rid of a Tacoma manual, but I could be wrong.
I rallied one in 2012. I know 2012 they had them. I think
that was only 10 years ago.
I know. Don't date me.
Frontier does anymore, but I feel like we thought maybe Tacoma was the only one. So I don't know, but maybe. I'm just like,
yeah, I think 2018 was the last year for a Frontier manual.
You gotta get something used, Jill, and build it up. We'll help you with that.
Yeah, need the manual transmissions. All right, Andy, your turn.
Well, I think my biggest rant is when you make basic functions either like 6 menus deep, or you can't easily figure it out. I guess my biggest pet peeve, and I'm going to sound like a curmudgeon here, is making difficult to use HVAC or climate controls.
Yeah.
Like if I'm driving down the road, I'm hurtling down the interstate at 70 miles an hour, and I just want to turn the fan on. And if I have to go through like 3 menus to do that, maybe I'll just open the window. But like, I mean, like, come on. You know what? I love 3 dials. Give me temperature, give me fan speed, and give me direction. It's easy to do. Oh, hold on. We've got an incoming comment by my wife here.
There's a 4th dial. Give me a knob for the stereo. And let me be able to turn it off quickly by pushing it in.
Same.
That's my extra rant. That's a bonus rant.
Bring back knobs.
So. Save the manuals and bring back the knobs.
Save the manuals. So Lord Nargle, and I totally butchered however that's supposed to sound, says that they do still have a manual in the TRD trim. So thank you for that. Also, here we go. I guess so. Mark says he keeps a sock in his car for the hot stick shift. I never would have thought of that, but okay.
I have seen somebody that crochets manual transmission cozies, whatever you want to call them. So
I bet you that could be
great for cold, great for hot. I'm sure they're on Etsy.
Go on Etsy. I was going to say we keep a sock in some of our right-hand drives, but it's not for the stick shift. It's actually to put our removable stereo face in it.
Because we're 90s like that.
Throw it in a sock. So. Well, if you got a hole in the sock, you still reuse the sock and use it as the,
Well, but back to your rant on the knob thing. Yes, especially so my fingers, you probably have no sense of perception or whatever here, but my fingers are very small, but I do have nails at the moment. And so when you try to touch like anything on a screen and you have nails, like you have to make your finger really wide so that you're not just poking it with your fingernail. And then you end up touching 3 buttons if you're doing like a screen thing. So yeah, I want tactily like actual buttons or knobs or dials, because otherwise, like if women with fingernails or dudes who have big fat fingers, and I mean that in the nicest possible way, like when they're trying to touch something, they're touching 3 things. And so like, I feel like it was Chrysler has their FCA or Stellantis, whatever that parent company is.
What are they called these days?
They have on their new Uconnect screens up in the top, they have little bitty buttons the fake buttons, I'm doing the air quotes for people who are listening on the podcast form of this. They have the little things up at the top that you can hit, and it's for like the steering wheel, like heaters or the seat heaters, or they have the fast buttons that they put up there now, and they're just like they're smaller than my finger, and so you have to like really, really touch them very carefully. And I wonder, actually, I don't if I could touch it with my fingernail, but that is definitely a little bit annoying.
That would be something I think that would annoy me too. I know one of the cars that is specifically not doing that though is the new Ineos Grenadier. They have, if you're familiar, it looks like an old Defender, like an old Land Rover Defender, but it's a completely different vehicle. They are producing it overseas and then bringing it over, I think, in the summer in the US here. But they have tactile and switch buttons and all sorts of pre-wiring for winches and for auxiliary lights and all that type of stuff. It's a big, beefy 4x4 vehicle, but they're very spaced out as far as the center stack and also the roof area for people with gloves, even winch gloves, to be able to tactile, just touch things easily, switch things on and off easily. It almost looks like a cockpit, right? An airplane cockpit, but they're specifically making it for that purpose so that you don't have to dink around with like little fingernails or, have that type of thing. So.
And he says Ineos Grandeur, is that what it is?
No, it's Ineos Grenadier.
INEOS and then Grenadier.
Grendier, the Ineos Grenadier.
Okay.
So Ineos is actually a global chemical company, and Ineos Automotive spun off from them because when the Land Rover Defender was stopped being produced, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, which is don't quote me, I think the CEO of Ineos, said, well, gosh, I love that vehicle. It's a quintessential iconic vehicle. Why not just try to build my own or build a vehicle that could do what I want it to? So hence Ineos Automotive was born, and they are going to be selling it globally.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Here's another. Purdue points out Gladiator also has a manual transmission option. So
yes,
yeah, right. That's right.
Yes.
How can we forget the Gladiator?
I know.
Oh, gosh.
I always forget. It's funny because working in the four-wheel drive industry, like people that have Gladiators, they have Jeeps first, and then they have a pickup. And I still think about Gladiator as just a Jeep, that has a bed versus a pickup. So,
and that was what I was talking with one of our product specialists when I was over in France. I had a chance to actually drive the Ineos Grenadier, both right-hand drive and left-hand drive diesel and petrol versions off-road over in France for a day. And I was talking with one of the specialists, the product specialist from Ineos, and she said they did specific study groups in the US, and that was the overall arching theme from Gladiator owners is they had a Jeep first, just like you said it. They had a Jeep first, and then it just so happened to be a truck.
Yeah. Well, as Tony R says, perfect off-roader built around a Jeep Wrangler.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, yeah. Oh, and well, okay. So YouTube Car Spotter Guide says 7-speed Bronco, but Bronco is not a truck. That doesn't count. But I will say I did recently. So at the Everglades drive that I did last week, I'm like, what week? Last week? Yeah, I think it was last week. I'm like, what day is it?
You sound like us. What month?
Same.
Huh?
Whenever it was that I drove that thing, the Everglade models were only for the off-road. So they had us driving other Bronco models to get to the off-road area. And I actually, on the way back, drove one of the manual transmission Broncos, and that was really amazing, actually.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I liked it. At first, I was a little bit nervous because I'm like, oh man, does this mean I'm going to have to drive this and off, and I was like, I didn't necessarily want to do it, but then I got by, I had to do it. And I thought, oh, this is really good. The only problem I had as a petite driver is I had to push my seat forward just a little bit further. So I was bashing my knee against the underbelly of the dash a little bit.
I was literally going to ask you because I'm vertically challenged in height as well. And so one of my biggest pet peeves, another rant, if I can still put in a rant, is if you can't crank the seat high enough or if I can't see over the hood because I'm short torsoed. And if I'm driving, it doesn't matter if it's an automatic or a stick shift. And if I can't see over, I have a tendency to go like this and just try to, look. And it's not good for your back and all sorts of other things. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah. And I think I'm pretty well proportioned. So I can usually see over the hood fine, but it's like the getting to the being able to clutch in all the way. And so I have more problems with manual transmission vehicles than I do with an automatic. So we own a GTI and I love how that thing drives, but I have a problem with that one because my knee hits the steering column actually.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
So
what we do for the manuals, man, I'm telling you.
I know what we do. But yeah, I just didn't know how the Bronco manual would be. Like if it was going to be rough, and I'm like, man, if I have to drive this thing for 3 hours and it's a rough transmission, I wasn't in the mood at 5 a.m. to do that. But turned out to be really good. So I was pleased with it. I was trying to see if there were any other comments in here. I know that a couple of people up here, their pet peeves were continuously variable transmission. I believe both Richard and Todd mentioned the CVTs. How do you guys feel about CVTs?
It's not my favorite. It's not the transmit. Well, listen, I'm a fringe lunatic and only buy manual transmissions, right?
Ditto.
But newer CVTs have definitely gotten better than the older ones. That I'll never forget the first CVT I drove, which was an Altima, and I thought the transmission was slipping, and it was just. I always say it sounds like a hairdryer when you just floor it.
Yeah.
Just, So I'm not a big fan of the CVT. I think they have their place. Do I care if my mom has a CVT? No. I mean, it's going to be easy for her. She'll probably get good fuel economy with it.
Right.
And that's great. As a driving enthusiast, it's my least enthusiastic choice.
Yeah.
If I can't have a manual, I prefer a dual clutch transmission. Then it's traditional automatic, I suppose. And then obviously the top of the hill is always going to be the manual transmission. I don't care if it's slower or not. So
give me paddle shifters at least.
Yeah, I see Todd saying the fake shift points that engineers put in these things. I know it's like, wait a minute, what are you doing? Like, it's not supposed to do that. You're actually removing the benefit that a CVT has, which is that ability to keep it in the sweet sweet spot. Instead, we're going to fake it like a real automatic transmission. So why don't you just give me a real automatic transmission if we're going to do that?
Well, but CVTs are more efficient, and they don't break. This is me and my laughing face.
Yes, indeed. Yeah,
by the way, you can't see me if you're on the podcast. This is me being sarcastic.
Right.
Oh,
Jatco.
so,
Yep, Jatco or Jakeco, however you say it. So
I have to. I'm posting this even though it's not about a truck or an SUV. Purdue says, "Have you driven the Veloster hard and fast on a track? It's pretty good." I have, and it is. And I don't know if you guys heard the news today, but
yep,
they are pulling the plug on the Veloster N.
Why?
Another hot hatch dead. So
yeah, but I don't. Yeah, I don't think the Veloster is going away. Just the Veloster N, but
that's a shame.
It is very sad.
We just need to move to Europe.
They are bringing
get all the cars over there.
Like Richard says, we are going to get the GR Corolla. That's cool. But, the focus I could go on and on about this.
That's a whole
I also run another website called Subcompact Culture, which is all about small cars. And, we've watched the disappearance of those and the hot hatches. But this is pickup truck and SUV talk. So.
Yeah, you've been covering subcompact since 08. 08. Yeah, 08. So.
Alternative universe.
So Tony R asks, anyone like the Colorado ZR2? Lots of useful off-road features, front and rear lockers, great suspension, soaks up the bumps with the Multimatic DSSV shocks. So that has the potential to be a good rally vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't driven the Colorado ZR2 off-road. I feel like I had the Colorado ZR2 Bison maybe 3 years ago. I feel like it was pre-pandemic, and all I did was go fast over speed bumps and potholes in Chicago, and it was really great on those.
Wasn't the Bison the one that had the AEV package on it?
Yep.
So that one I drove off-road. That I was in Texas for the off-road invitational a couple of years ago, and that was a really, really nice truck to be able to drive off-road. But that was my last time.
It seems like people who have Colorados really love them. I was talking with some people at the Northwest Overland Rally last week or 2 weeks ago. And there was a guy that had one of the diesel ones, and he loved it. Just great. He just was in love with it. So,
yeah. And in case you guys don't know, Chevrolet is going to be introducing the new Colorado ZR2 on July 28th.
Oh, I did not know that.
We posted a teaser on the channel from Chevrolet. So I know, because I was like, is it June 28th? Is it July 28th? I was getting dates mixed up, and it's July 28th. So that is going to be coming soon. Whatever. Tim is such a diva is what I want to say, because Todd says Tim gets sick every time Jill is driving and launches over a bump and gets air. I swear he's going like this and flailing himself around the cabin just for drama. It's drama. But, all right. Do you guys have any other rants you want to share before we sign off? I was trying to see if anybody had some in the comments, but Mercedes?
I got a good one. It's more for all-wheel drive and CUVs. Why the silver with the black, ugly, ugly, ugly wheels? What's with that phase?
Oh, it's just partially machined and partially painted wheels.
For off-road vehicles?
Yeah,
mostly
on-road. This isn't necessarily trucks and whatnot, but I can't wait until that phase gets over.
I see. No, those don't bother me. I think those actually look very pretty. What drives me flipping nuts, and very few vehicles can pull these off, the bronze wheels.
Oh, it depends.
The Toyota Tacoma 100% works. But the what was it? It was the Ridgeline HPD version or whatever I think they were calling it. I was like, it did not work with the red paint I had, and but the Tacoma with that kind of like a turquoisey gray paint and the bronze, like they were not a obnoxious bronze. But like pretty much everybody else gets the bronze on the wheels wrong. I think Tacoma's the only one that I've seen that has. And bronze wheels on a minivan? No.
Polarizing, maybe a little polarizing.
Yeah, well, for me, it's got to be a nice, deep, darker bronze. If it's gold, I mean, if you're a drifter, that's one thing, but or a lowrider, but it's just got to have a beautiful, darker hue to it for it to be a right bronze for me.
Yeah. But no, I don't mind the black and silver on the wheels.
Yeah.
Okay, why? Now you have to tell me
It's
why.
just
Why
gaudy to
it's
me.
just-
It looks busy. It looks like there's a lot
Yeah.
going on. I just think that, I think that there's a
Overstyled.
lot of really, really ugly OE wheels these days.
Mm.
I like simple, clean wheels. What happened to
Classic
silver
five-spoke.
wheels, by the way?
Yeah.
Are those
What's
like
a
silver wheels? Like all my four-wheel drives, all our four-wheel drives have black wheels because they're easy to touch up.
That's
Yeah.
because
But-
we use them off road. We have pinstripes and nicks out of our.
But like,
our
yeah, what
wheels.
happened to good-looking silver wheels? Like, it's like
Yeah.
now everything's got to be these busy multi.
Wow, they look like they're from a
black
cartoon.
and silver with fake rivets and dimples and
No.
rivets and
I don't want to
know.
take Q-tips to clean my wheels. Like, if you've got all those little divots and things that
Yeah.
no.
Yeah,
Give me simple, give me easy, give me just
See, I don't mind them stylized as long as there's nothing else that's really busy on the vehicle. So I know wheels you're going to absolutely hate, or like all of the wheels on Genesis vehicles.
Yeah. Okay. So some of them.
you touched a chord right
Well,
here.
I knew you were going to say that. I'm
Well, they are very, very intricate wheels.
They are. I would hate to clean them. Like, I'll tell you what. Give me a good looking 5-spoke wheel. It's easy to clean. They're classic. Like, I guess. Okay. Here's another rant. Fake bolts on 4-wheel drive
God.
vehicle.
Yes.
Like fake bead locks. I know it's a trend. It's still a trend, but I feel like the
Go
industry is
away.
going away
Go
from that
away.
finally. I just like, I don't know, maybe I'm a function over form guy, but like, why would you put fake bolts on there? I mean,
Well, it kind of goes back to my interior design days, right? With all the materials and finishes. Whenever we get a car for review, we do so much aftermarket things, and we're more in that genre. So we don't get a ton of review vehicles like you guys do. But when we do, he's got a different outlook on them from a material and interior cockpit standpoint than I do, because that's all I see is the usability, the functionality, how's it going to wear and this. But it's interesting for us to kind of go back and forth, because he notices things that I don't see, but then he I'll say something, he's like, oh yeah, I never thought of that, or it's just kind of interesting.
yeah. I also miss wing windows that were on like Jeeps and stuff like that, where you could open the wing window and then just shoot air at yourself. Like,
you mean like the 66 Mustang I just drove across country?
like that, or like my dad had a 90 Cherokee and you could just open that wing window. I miss those. Anyway.
The wing windows always make me think of my grandma, and I feel like she had this big honkin' like 62 Chevrolet something when she had no air conditioning, so she had the wing windows.
Yes.
But yeah. All right. Well, I feel like we've gotten some good rants in. We touched on the American Made Index, and we had some really good conversations about the Alcan. Hopefully I said that right. 5,000 starts in Washington, ends up in Canada. So follow you at Crankshaft Culture. And stay tuned for more details. We'll have you on again to talk about how it goes afterwards.
Great.
And I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. This should be the last Timless live stream. He should be back next week. And we'll have him on the news recap tomorrow. So just thanks to everybody for watching. Thanks to Mercedes and Andy for joining me and for keeping me company. Me talking to myself is never a lot of fun. So
thanks for having us on. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a blast.
And we will have you on again. So that's what we have for this live stream and this podcast. Thanks to everybody. And I will see you down the road, maybe with Tim next time, not flailing around the cabin.
Make sure to give him some grief for us. That's you, Tim.
Oh, I will 100% give him grief.
Awesome.